Welcome to another one of the Sports 731 Network specials here. We're talking high school football, getting ready for the kickoff of this season, of which everybody that is being interviewed over these next few interviews we do, their school, their former high school, these are all retired coaches. Matter of fact, Coach Pritchard that was on in a previous session, he's the color man for Huntington High School. Now, you can't get rid of some of us coaches, but these guys keep their eye on the game, and we're going to talk today with two gentlemen from Northside. They're going to talk about Northside, which is part of the Jackson Madison County Public School System's broadcast here on Sports 731. They're going to talk about the old volunteer conference some because both of them coached in it. Bud played in it. O'Neill's a Big Ten guy like Randy Barnes, who you'll hear in the next show is, and Randy's even got some Midwest Conference. A lot of people forget about that conference. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about rivalries. We're going to have some good stories, some on coaches. And we may, who knows, these two gentlemen have enough on Jim Potee that they could, if Jim was live, they could ransom him. But Randy's got some, plus he's got some payback stories that are good ones. They're clean, and we won't say which coach, but one coach that we have dealt with in the past, language probably is a little colorful for a show like this. And matter of fact, all of us either know him or have worked with him at one time, and Randy knows exactly what I'm talking about. Now, Sports 731 every Friday night is going to bring you football games. We've got schools like Henry County, which once upon a time was E.W. Grove High. We've got McKenzie. We've got Westview. We've got Union City. I believe that covers the north pretty well. Huntington is definitely on with us. And like I said, Coach Pritchard, one of our color men, he and Brian do a great job up there. Union City is going to have a new play-by-play man this year, may have a new color man. I'm not sure Eddie Suter did, but Robin Francis of our staff. Then we got the Madison County schools down here, or Jackson, Madison County, they prefer to be called. And Luke Brown, one of the excellent men on our staff, played at Lambeth at one time. That Lambeth just had a big reunion about a week ago or 10 days ago, whatever it was. It was great, though. And we have got Jackson Christian School, Trenton Peabody. We don't have anybody. There's kind of a gap in their coaches because the dean of coaches, Walter Kilzer, these two men have coached against him. You played against Walter when O'Neill did. Randy knows who Walter Kilzer is, and we all the utmost respect for him. They're being coached now by Tab Val, who just happens to have a little Northside experience. Two-sport letterman at UTM when he played there and played at South Fulton, my wife's old high school. Now, I've done too much talking. The name of the game is getting these men. Both these men have been head coaches at Northside. They've both been assistants, and I'm going to let him just say a word or two about himself on my left. Being left-handed, everybody thinks I'm right-handed. I'm like the kid in class one time when O'Neill was my assistant principal. I'm writing on the board with both hands at the same time. And the coach, or they held it up and said, Coach, you're amphibious. And I had to kind of laugh a minute, catch my breath, and said, no, I'm ambidextrous. So I favor the left a little bit here. But O'Neill, tell them about your career. Go all the way back to when you played at Humboldt High School, Humboldt fans. I know y'all are listening.
Okay. I played at Humboldt when R.A. Long was head coach and Jackie Kane was the assistant coach. And we had my senior year. We had a fairly decent season for a bunch of young kids. We only had 3 seniors on the team, and we had a freshman quarterback. And the year before, we'd had a great year. And you know how it is. You lose those guys, and you had to fill in, and it took us a while to get going, but we ended up with a 6-4 season when I think most people thought we'd be lucky to have a winning season, but I guess R.A. Long and Jackie Kane were the two that kind of cultivated my love of football. I was a 155-pound center, so there wasn't much chance of me going on and playing college ball. And so when I went to Lambeth, I actually went to be a a wildlife biologist. So I majored in biology, and but I minored in education, and I went to Northside to do my student teaching. And again, I didn't plan on teaching, but Burris Nichols got me to come out that fall and help them in football, and I guess that's where my career started right there. I loved football, and I thought it would be over when I was a senior, but then after having a chance to coach, it just seemed like the right fit for me. And so I was there at Northside and under Burris Nichols, and then Carl Long and Johnny Williams came in, and I was under Johnny. Just he and I coached the first year, and then he brought in Bud, and we were together for a long time. And then I became head coach, and Bud was my defensive coordinator. And then when I became principal, Bud became the head football coach. So that's kind of the history of my football career.
And before we go to Bud, and I will say this, these guys are like my own brothers. There was something special about people that coached at Northside, and they were kind enough to bless me by coming to my Hall of Fame induction here in Madison County. And I appreciate it. Bud's known for everything. Bud and I could do a baseball show. We could spend an hour talking about baseball and his dad's involvement, his brothers, and at Union, y'all really don't know how good he is, and he can tell you more stories on the Daddy Rabbit, Jack Russell, that can shake a stick at. But I'm going to turn it over to Bud to give you a little introduction, and we're going to go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Glad to be here. I played at Northside under T.D. Reynolds. Yep. Mr. Reynolds was then the principal when I came back to coach at Northside. And I was the last quarterback that played for Mr. Reynolds before he became principal at Northside. And so we played, back then, we played all the sports, football, basketball, baseball. I loved to play baseball, loved it, love it today. Wish I could still play. But Billy Scribner said one time, he walked by, we were at a football game, and he said, somebody said, well, let's take a little infield. And Scribner said, they'll have to get on their knees, which is about right, but it was great. And then I was fortunate enough to play for Jack Russell at Union, and Mr. Reynolds and Jack Russell were probably the biggest influence on my coaching, my playing, and everything about them. I just remember so many things that they would say, and I loved it. And I coached at Chester County for 6 years with Jim Poteet. Now, you want an education, you got it with Big Jim. Yes, sir. And then I came back to Northside and stayed there 25 years, I believe, something like that. And it was just a great school, and that's what I wanted. It's where I wanted to be. That's what I'm trying to say. It was at Northside, and I was fortunate enough to do it. I could have gone earlier. Mr. Reynolds called me up, and he said, I was still at Chester County. He said, Bud, come up here and coach girls basketball. I said, Coach, and turned him down. And I wish I hadn't, but I did. And but we finally got together. And let me tell you about O'Neill. O'Neill and I were so compatible that we knew what each other was thinking. And so he did his offense and I did my defense, and it just worked out great because he would listen when you talked. He would explain in a good manner, and it was just a great relationship working with O'Neill Henley at Northside High School.
I will second that. folks, you just got to be there to know. Randy can probably address that. He had staffs like that. But these two guys, and you know what, they made everybody feel welcome. Jerry Hayes, that was in here for a previous session, loved his time at Northside. Even that's hard for a Southsider to say now. It really is. But let's now you got some passing influence, and I'm going to go back to you about two of your coaches. You got some influence from Coach Pratt down at Chester County. He was ahead of his time throwing the football, right?
No question about it. No question. I tell you what, he would start drawing up stuff, and I was just in a daze. Now, Coach Potee was a great coach. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but he was very fundamental. You know, run off tackle, run up the middle, sprint out and throw a little bit, and that kind of thing. But Coach Pratt would attack you. And here's what he did, and I learned a whole lot of football under Coach Pratt. He'd say, all right, here's my offense. Set up your defense. I'd set up a defense, and he loved it. He would suck through his teeth. He'd say, look here, Coach. And he'd draw up something, and you were beat. And he was just a great offensive mind. And you know what he did? He got discouraged early in his career about coaching because he wasn't winning. And he actually stopped being a head coach, became an assistant coach, and learned some football. And then came back. He was quite a man.
And, of course, R.A. Long, your coach, very influential, and you can talk about him and Coach Kane if you got a good story. R.A. is a Trenton guy. He played over there at Trenton Peabody.
Oh, yeah.
Peabody is a real correct way to say it.
He and Walter Kilser actually played together.
Yeah.
We ran the wing T when R.A. was head coach, which it was developing into some people were beginning to spread out a little bit with it and stuff. But actually, I loved the offense, and Bud was very influential on me too. Coming what he learned from Pratt, I loved the passing game, and I loved trick plays, and so we fit in real well together. Now we both worked under Johnny. Johnny was more of a running coach, and he did a good job at running the ball. Bud and I could every now and then we could convince him we needed to throw the ball, but it was fun working with these guys. Like I said, Bud. When I asked Bud if he would be, when I became head coach, and asked Bud if he would be the defensive coordinator, I told him, I said, now, it's yours. I'm not going to interfere with it. You set up your defenses the way you want to. And he had more defenses than I had offense, I think. But I remember one game, we weren't doing very well. We weren't it may have been Brownsville, but we weren't stopping them. They were moving the ball, and Bud told me, he said, I'm gonna take that first defense out and put in the second defense. And I thought, oh my gosh! But I didn't say anything. I let him do it, and he put them in, and the deadgum little boys got with it, and they held pretty good. They didn't score. So then he turned around at halftime and talked to that defense and put them back in. And I think Brownsville had minus yardage the second half of that ball game.
And I'll tell you, let me second that. But Brownsville drove. At the end of the game, they were at the goal line. And we had a defensive end named Mike Taylor. Yeah. And so Brownsville was in that full house backfield. And they ran the tight end on him, two backs on him, and the running back. Taylor stacked them everyone up, made the tackle, and we took over on downs with just a little bit to play and beat them 7-6.
Yeah.
Heck of a game.
Yeah.
But Mike Taylor, and I'm going to let him talk about the Simonetti deal, but we played Covington that year, same kind of situation, and they were going to run off tackle at Mike Taylor, And I looked up there when the ball was snapped, and Simon Eddy, who played the other defensive end, was over there helping Taylor double team, stacked them up. We beat them 1 point.
John Simonetti. Mike Taylor, folks, for the ones that don't know, not only played at UTM and did well, but he is chairman of the county commission here in Jackson and very successful.
SEC
official, the whole bit.
He was a leader in high school. You could tell he was a leader. He was serious about what he was doing, and it shows. You know, you can tell those guys a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, right now you either call 5 friends and tell them to tune in how to get this. This is being taped and played later, or either you run the thing back, because I'm going to turn O'Neill and Bud loose both on one of the all-time characters at Northside High School, John Simonetti.
John was he was a transfer. He came in as a sophomore, and his dad was the Marine recruiter here in Jackson, and he brought him in and registered him and warned him, said he played football, so we got him in. And his senior year was a year we went 10-1 that year, and he was one end and Taylor was the other. And he was, in fact, we even put in an offense that we called the Bruise Brothers offense, where we put Simonetti at fullback and had a 200-pound tailback, so we just pound people with him. But toward the end of the season, Simonetti hurt his ankle, and he was going to be out. He couldn't. Doctor. Well, his dad brought him in and said, "Well, let him play, even though he had a cast on his foot." And he said, "Well, and I said, "Well, Mr. Simonetti, I don't know about that." I said, "You take him back to the doctor, and if a doctor will release him and tell him that he can play, then I'll let him play." Well, they took him back to Dr. Thomas, was our team doctor, and he said, "No, under no circumstances does he need to play." And so John was going to have to set out that game and probably another one. And so on Thursday, we had dress rehearsal, what we call. We went out in our game stuff, and John wanted to put on his game stuff, so I let him do that. And I said, "You can't be running around doing anything, but I'll let you." So Friday night, he said, "Coach, can I dress out? Can I just dress out for the game?" And I said, "No, John, you're not going to dress out. First thing I know, you'll be in there if you're dressed out." So he said, "Well, can I just wear my jersey and pants and not wear shoulder pads?" And I said, "Well, okay, I think that'll be all right." So Friday night, normally Bud would take the receivers and quarterbacks and kickers out, and I'd stay in with the offensive line and kind of go over their blocking and make sure they know the game plan. And after I got through with them, I went outside. I came back, and there's Simonetti with his pads on. And I said, "John, what do you think you're doing?" He said, "Coach, you don't understand. I got a sign." And I said, "What do you mean you got a sign?" He said, "Well, Coach, you told me that I couldn't play with his cast, so I was sitting there and said I looked down, and there was a weight right there by me, and I thought, well, I can take that weight, hit that cast, and soften it up." And then he said, "If I just had a roll of tape, And so about that time, a roll of tape came rolling across the floor and rolled right up to me, and I taped it up. He said, "Coach, that's a sign." I said, "John, you are not going to go out with your pads on." But he was just that kind of guy.
And this is a true story, people.
I guarantee.
Okay, let me throw some names at you. Both of you can talk about it. One, you can take turns, however you want to do it. And we can't go all the way back, but we've already talked a little bit about Johnny Williams. But let's throw a name out. There's a good story behind him. NFL player. His name is Sylvester Hicks. Had never played a down of football before he got to Northside High School, and his intentions, as far as I know, was to never play a down of football.
Yeah.
What's the story? How'd y'all get him out?
Well, he was actually playing when I got there because he was a senior on that 72 team that was so good. And so O'Neill would have to relate that. But I talked to Sylvester the other day. So he called and we talked a minute or two. But he was something else. I ran into him when Johnny had him playing basketball. Yeah. And I'm telling you, every other word Johnny said was Sylvester. Sylvester. He fussed at Sylvester all the time. But Sylvester was a great person. He was a great leader, and he was a great athlete. Fine football player. He was about 6'6" and weighed 200 pounds when he played for us.
Yeah.
And I think when he went to Kansas City to play, he was about 260.
He also played Tennessee State. I won't put the B on you. I understand, and I will absolve O'Neill from having to do this, but if he wanted to keep playing basketball, he had to play football, didn't he?
I don't know how Johnny coerced him into coming out, but he just told me, you know, he played offensive tackle, and I coached the line. He said, well, Sylvester's going to come out for the line. I said, okay.
Well, at the pizza place, we ran into Johnny and Linda one time, and he told me, he said, I had a little influence on Sylvester deciding to play football. And he's Reverend Hicks now and doing a good job and a great family. Randy Renfro. Now, I heard a Northside fan one night call him the Kansas Comet before Gale Sayers. Y'all want to say anything about Randy Renfro, who was quicker than a hiccup?
I will tell you that we coached him in football, and then I coached him in basketball, and he was just a tremendous athlete. He could do whatever you wanted done, he could do it. He was a fine athlete. He sure was.
Yeah, he kind of ruined our plans for his junior year. He came in, he had moved in as a sophomore, and it didn't take us long to realize that he's probably the best athlete we'd ever had, and put him at tailback. And he did a great job there. And our plans were to move him to quarterback in the spring. And he moved off and went to Kansas. And he went down there as a sophomore and won the state in the high hurdles. Yep. And track in that spring after he left Northside, and then
he played wide receiver at Kansas State.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, he came from Kansas to y'all, is what my brother told me, who played for these two gentlemen too at Northside, and that's where he went back to when his dad got transferred with a job or something happened. Like, okay, Don McCleary. I know he was kind of in between both of y'all, but one of the greatest tailbacks in Northside history.
He was actually, his senior year was my first year at Northside coaching. I didn't do a whole lot of coaching with the varsity. I coached the freshmen, but I was there on game night, obviously, when the regular team played. And Don, the thing I remember about Don is the way he could twist out of a tackle. I mean, he'd be running head on at you, and he'd run over you, but if he didn't run over you, he'd spin out of that tackle. And best I ever saw it doing that. And when he went up to UT, when they needed a yard or two, McCleary was going to have the ball. He was just that good of a power runner.
Well, let's talk about three of the teams. And the 72 team had got as far as any Northside team has in football. I believe the semifinals and with a little here and there. You never know what would have happened that year. We'll talk about that one. Let's talk about the 77 team, because according to some newspaper articles, some of the people that were on radio, the winner of the Northside Milan game was going to win the state, which did happen that year. Just the right team didn't win. And of course, Randy's going to address this when he's on. Randy Barnes, former Union City coach. The 9-1 team that didn't make the state playoffs, and he knows about that too. And that's probably for a coach, especially with the rules they had, and I call it short sight and thinking how to set up a playoff system. That needs to be dealt with too. But let's go back to 72 very quickly.
I'll tell you about that 72 team. 72 team. That was my first year at Northside, and at Chester County, I had run a 5-3 defense. And when I came to Northside, they were running a split 4. So O'Neill and I sat around like we always did, and we came up with the 53-40. And what it wound up being was the old Chicago Bear defense. And I'm telling you, we would run a split 4. We'd jump in the 5-3, and then we'd roll in the 53-40. We had 8 shutouts that year. 8 shutouts. Now, you think back, what? You can't do that now, but we did it then.
Yeah.
And that was a solid team. I'll just never forget it. Jimmy Biter was our quarterback, and the very first game we played was Humboldt. And Coach Williams had decided that it was okay for us to throw the ball every now and then. Jim Biter threw 5 touchdown passes against Humboldt, first game of 72, and that set the tone. We had a great year, great team.
Yep.
O'Neill, I'm going to interject something different. Y'all just made me think something. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was either 75 or 76. You played Humboldt down in Henderson, Tennessee, and was that the Little Cotton Bowl, what they call it?
Little Liberty Bowl.
Little Liberty Bowl. Yeah. That's what Little Cotton Bowl was over at Haywood.
Yeah.
I think Poe and them thought they were fixing to roll on y'all, didn't they?
Yeah.
He'll have to tell you that one.
Well, we had this dinner. They had a dinner for the coaches and everybody the night before the bowl. And, you know, Jim Pote, I'll tell you what, Johnny Williams, you're not going to run that isolation on me. We had just, the last game, we ran isolation I don't know how many times. And just
probably 30 times.
Yeah, they never stopped it. And so Johnny and I had gotten together, and I'd talked him into opening with a muddle huddle. You know, what we did, after the kickoff, when we received the ball, we lined up like we're huddling everybody to the left of the ball, and we had a back behind it, and the center broke, gets over the ball, and just pitches it to the back. Well, that's what
Which is legal, folks.
Oh, yeah. And so that's the way we opened, and we got down to about the 20-yard line on that. We lined up in the unbalanced line and ran the 22 isolation, and they never adjusted, and there was a hole you could walk through. And we did it all night.
Yeah, and we were famous for running the 8-man line too. Not many people did that and go with it. And you've changed the course of things, and I'll let you and Bud talk about this. First of all, I don't read anymore. I look at the pictures, but this is a simplified and illustrated rule book. These gentlemen are responsible in McNairy Central. There's still dirty words down at McNairy Central. A legal play that changed the rules of football, and I'll let them talk about that play. And your son was involved in it, yeah. Tim Allen, who we all dearly love, yeah. Rusty Winslow, yeah. Who's got to have either the hardest head or the best hands in America. And I'm going to turn the story over to them.
Yeah, O'Neill will have to tell that.
Well, one thing we did, we wanted to know the rules even better than the officials. and we were doing all these trick plays, and it got toward the end of the season. That they always say, "Are you going to do anything tricks or like that?" And so. It got where I could say, "Yeah, we're going to run so and so. You know it's legal." "Oh yeah, it's legal." So we could have probably done by anything we wanted to, but this particular play, we got in center eligible. Center eligible, you had all your line to one side, and you had two flankers on the left, and that made you center eligible. And we had a shotgun quarterback, and we ran that. I guess probably almost every game. We'd jump in at least just to kind of break the what. If we wasn't moving the ball well, that would give us a little pickup, and the stands would go wild every time we got in it. Well, Trey, of course, quarterback, he could run or throw, and that made it work. But anyway, we had our flankers out to the left, and he took the snap and rolled left and threw the ball 10 yards down the field to Tim Alley. Well, Tim Alley was a pretty good passer himself. So he catches the ball, throws it back across the line to Trey, and then Rusty Winslow has gone deep, and there's nobody anywhere around. Of course, when Tim caught the ball, everybody converged on him. Trey throws it to him, and he catches it, and just as he catches it, he runs into the goal post, knocks himself out, but he managed to hold the football and fall on his back. And it scared us to death. We were afraid he broke his neck, but he was all right. It just kind of knocked him out for a second.
McNary coaches kind of rushed the field a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were a little upset. It is no longer a legal play. It's kind of like something I may ask Randy about. Al Pellegrino came into Randy's old high school and ran what was called the A formation. And basically that meant everybody on the team was eligible to go out for a pass. It's no longer legal. It lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
And Pellegrino didn't last much longer, really, than his formation did. But again, if you ever want one, it's a lot easier to read this or look at the pictures in the simplified and illustrated. I must not have been a good coach. These guys and Randy sitting over there, they could all read the rule book. I had to look at the pictures to get the rules and stuff. Guys, we are getting close on time, but conferences, and you name the conferences you coached and played in two. You've basically been in one conference. Conferences and bowl games versus the playoff system. Any thoughts? And the floor is open out of both of you.
Well, of course, at Humboldt, I played in the Big Ten. It was all you really had to shoot for then was we had a Big Ten playoff on Thanksgiving. And you could either do that, or if you had 6 wins, you could get a bowl game. So it was a way to, give kids a reward for having a good year. I'd have to say the playoffs are better as far as coming up with the best team in the state. Of course, back then all you had to go with is what the sports writers said was the best team, and a lot of that was kind of politics, I think. But then when I went to Northside, we were in the volunteer conference. And the first year I was there, the year that Don was a senior, we actually played 2 bowl games. We only had 9 games scheduled, and I don't know if Burris did that intentionally so he could get 2 bowl games. I think he knew what kind of team we were going to have. And but we played 1 bowl game at Paris and it was against Paris, and we won that one. I'm trying to think where the other bowl game. I know we played 2, but right now I can't think.
It wasn't the Gordon Browning Bowl though at Huntington, and I have forgotten it. I don't have my sheet with bowl games.
Like it was in Middle Tennessee.
It was, but I don't remember the bowl or even who.
And I know the Tobacco Bowl was big up there, but there were other good ones too. Yeah. Bud, the Volunteer Conference had North and South Division, right? Conferences were good. Playoffs turned out to be somewhat okay, but getting left out as a 9-1 team, that's a sore spot with me.
Well, it is. Now, I will agree with Coach about the playoff is a little better because it gives you a little stronger incentive, and it's maybe a little truer picture.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like about it was you lost some of your rivalry. You lost some of your basic teams that you had played for years and years. So I didn't like it from that standpoint. But the first year that I coached with Coach Poteet, Chester County, we won the Southern Division and played Camden, who had won the Northern Division, and they beat us twice that year. They had the Sturdivant boys, and they were good. And I am going to mention Randy Barnes too.
Yes,
we didn't play Union City, but we scrimmaged them. Yeah. And I'm telling you, those Union City kids would beat our kids. It was a slugfest every time we scrimmaged them. And boy, and you talking about getting excited, Johnny Williams would get excited. That was a pretty good deal. But Randy, he had some really, really fine teams. The 9-1 team was the best talent that we had at Northside. That's when you had
probably ever too.
Simonetti and just all those guys. They were just great, and it was just a shame that we lost to Bolivar by 1 point.
Well, that year, Joe, you may remember, we scrimmaged Germantown and beat them in the scrimmage.
Yeah, that's the reason we couldn't have Ken Netherland on here if we were alive, or he was alive.
Yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, that reminds me, O'Neill. I hadn't thought about that, but we got to beating them. Coach said, "Let's go home."
Yep, absolutely.
Not to Memphis.
Yes. Yep, Coach Netherland. Like that. Gentlemen, we are just about out of time, but I need a final statement to not only the Northside Indian Nation, but to all the football fans that have followed y'all, also about your careers and stuff. But final statement here on the Sports 731 Network, and these are going to be archived. You can go back and watch them. But, O'Neill, I started with you. I'm going to let Bud give his statement first, and you're going to get to finish us today.
Okay.
Well, it was a great, great career. I don't know that I could do anything different. I loved what I did, and I still love the game. And I just am so proud that I was able to contribute a little bit to Northside High School.
Well, Joe, Northside was more than just a job to me. I had it was a calling, and I don't know if I got time to tell this. I'll try to make it real short. But after working with Burris that spring, he told me, I want you to coach here at Northside. I want you to come if we can get an opening for you. And so I said, well, okay, I will. And Jackie Kane was at Covington, and he had heard that I might be wanting to coach, so he called me to come down there and interview with him. And I went down there, and on the way, I slid off the road. It was weird. It hadn't rained, but the road was wet. And a wrecker from Covington came up and stopped, and he said, "Can you get off that bank?" And I backed off, and he said, "Where are you headed?" And I said, "Covington. I've got an interview with Coach Kane." He said, "Well, I'll radio back and tell him that you can't make it today." And so he did. I turned around and came home, and when I pulled in the driveway, my mother came to the door and said, "O'Neill, Mr. Nichols is on the phone wanting to talk to you." And so I went in, and the first thing he said, "Did you take that job?" And I said, "No, I didn't make it down there." And he said, "Good, we've got a job for you at Northside." So with that, I kind of felt like Northside was a calling.
Yes, it was. Two fine gentlemen, Sports 731 Network on the .com, the app, the Facebook, bringing you the best in sports. Gentlemen, before I sign off completely, yes or no, if we somehow recreated Johnson's Coaches Day, would you come to something like that again?
Guarantee you. I thought about that the other day, and when I drive by that empty store now, it's a little sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. I feel the same way.
Oh,
Yeah, I love going down there and meeting all the coaches and listening to all
the lies.
Yeah. Well, guys, you never know what's going to happen. Sitting in the room is one of three people, and I work with three of the most creative people that you'll ever want to meet. Sports 731 specials like this, we've got more of them, but folks, we've got football for you every Friday night. Network of teams, you've heard talk about all of them. We're going to be with you, and we've got some great guys. These guys could be color guys. Randy Barnes could easily be a color guy. He's just so busy. He's a councilman now. We'll talk more about him. But Sports 731 Network, Friday mornings, 10 o'clock. Be there listening or be square, whatever you want to say. Use some trite old phrase. Those who do not learn their history are doomed to repeat it. Be there starting the 14th, 10 o'clock in the morning to approximately 11:30. Some of the finest non-coaching minds, because by this time when you coach too long, you get a little off. I'll be there. But the finest minds that are non-coaching minds will be on that show. Most of them ex-players. They're news media people, etc. like that. You don't want to miss this because we could be talking about you too. Sports 731, the leader in sports in West Tennessee.